And good evening. I don't even remember what we normally do for the.
You're the one who does the freaking intro.
Yeah, but I normally do like a.
We'll do a guest intro. You ready, Jesty?
Hey, everybody. This is Calgary Battletech League coming at you with Rambletech. Today we've got our host over here to my right, Pirate. You can see him. And we got Illyrian up top. And I think his name is Lee in the top right of me.
Everybody.
Thank you for tuning into this special episode and our guests today from the MRC. These are two of the individuals that have been doing a lot of Megamek work. They've also been posting videos over on Jesty MRC on YouTube as well. So if you like what we've been doing, join, subscribe, hit the like button and bell icon for them as well.
Yeah, there'll be a link at the... There will be a link in the comments below on how to get to his channel.
Yeah, thanks guys for having us. We've been looking forward to it. I've listened to a lot of your stuff on Rambletech and Battle Babes, so I'm keeping up with the Calgary Battletech League more than my local scene, unfortunately.
Isn't that kind of the way with a lot of sports where you're like, I'd like to follow this NFL team, but the nearest one is, 3-hour drive away.
Well, not only that, but then you got the issue of, well, I know that person plays this way and that person plays this way. So it's nice hearing people play a different way and just going, what?
Yeah, there's a big... It's really neat seeing how other people do things. Like, the MRC has a much more straightforward way of doing the rules, which is awesome. Makes it very... It's almost like a breath of fresh air being able to come in and go, oh, you just pick this BV and you play under Total Warfare with a couple little tweaks. Awesome. And then you get things like... We were talking earlier about how our league is got 68 pages or 72 pages of our own custom rules. And it's kind of cool seeing how everybody does it differently.
Yeah, I enjoy MRC. There was a little format wars going on for a while there, and I just thought MRC was probably the most foundational of them all, because they have ground rules. You have to use Total Warfare and some advanced rules here and there. You have to be within a certain battle value, but other than that, pretty much everything is fair game. Especially with Season 3, you can use vehicles, battle armor, wages, everything but aerospace so far is legal, and I'm hoping aerospace will get added by Season 4. Maybe. That'll be a lot more paperwork for Carbon to deal with, but...
We don't need aerospace, and we don't need protomechs.
Infantry!
Infantry's fine, by all means. They do wicked good in cities.
Yep. Especially with the Total Warfare way of doing it versus some of the older ways where a PVC kills a single guy instead of 10.
Oh yeah, speaking of which, we just had a tournament where we had a double-blind city fight, so infantry could have really wreaked some havoc in that matchup.
I'm wishing I had 2 or 3 squads of battle armor in that game.
Yeah, me too. Unfortunately, due to the malice, I was unable to take any battle armor, and I had to stick to all mechs.
At least you had active pros. I took intro tech. That was awful.
I don't want to hear any complaints, Mr. Third Place, or Second.
Yeah, Mr. PPC wall.
PPC go brrr, but at least I can go juggernaut through some buildings.
All right, so basically for our fans, these two gentlemen that are joining us today do a lot of Megamek battles because everybody lives all over the place. So I've been hanging out with them a lot. We just had a recent video that was posted on our site. This is a battle between myself and Pirate. And I'm going to be getting into a game with Jesty again here in the near future. But we just wrapped up the March Mechiness tournament over, and that was pretty awesome. I think I came in 7th from the bottom, but literally it was starting and people were about to play game 1 or were playing game 1 already. And I was like, can I get in on this? I haven't played Megamek in like 8 years, but can I get in on this?
Yeah, and we're glad you did, because now you've experienced one tournament, so now you have no excuse not to play in any of the rest of them coming up.
Right. I mean, the nice thing about that is with the Megamek tournaments, I don't have to leave my house.
Not only that, but you also get the situation where when it's just a small community, we all play each other. So when we start getting some new blood in there, it helps give a nice gradient where there's different skill levels, different tactics, different ways of playing. We really enjoy seeing more faces show up.
Yeah, actually, I'm West Coast. I'm in California, and I'm up pretty late for most people on Megamek. But I do get to play with Brad, DV&ID, who lives out on the East Coast, but he works nights. So he's up at the same time I'm up. And I've also gotten a couple of games in with Funk Soul Brother, who's actually an Australian. So even, no matter when you're awake and active, there's bound to be somebody around who can pick you up or who can take you up on a game, a pickup game or a tournament or whatever. Fun game that doesn't even count for your ranking in MRC.
Yeah, I used to play a lot of Megamek back in 2003-4 when it was just coming out with the Invasion server. And it was nice because you just log in and you look to see who's around, you set up a game and away you go, because it was always a community that was available. Not have to be like, oh, do I go to the game store this weekend and maybe somebody's there on Saturday and maybe somebody's not? I definitely
might have fought you on that. Brett, I think we might have actually run into each other a couple times on that server.
Probably. SLDF Gunslinger just showed up in MRC here a few days ago.
Really? Cool. I haven't heard that name in forever.
But it's a noticeable name, right? And I'm like, I know that guy. I know that guy from like 10 years ago.
So when I found out that artillery can hit within 19 hexes, just aim at the hex you're standing in, it was through that server that I found out that Nagas are bad. Very bad.
Wow.
So what you do is you fire 2 homing missiles at 21 hexes, and then the next turn you fire 2 homing missiles at 17 hexes, and you hit a guy with 4 in a single round.
While we allow artillery, we definitely learned our lesson that artillery can sometimes be a little not fun to play against.
Oh, it was brutal. And the worst thing about it is it doesn't matter how fast you move, he's aiming at the hex. He's not aiming at you. So your fire moth that moves 20 hexes, don't care. I need 3s to hit.
Artillery and Alpha Strike, I think, is fair game. By all means, it's a little more balanced in Alpha Strike. Map doesn't dodge, so you just take your artillery penalty, and that's fair. Classic, on the other hand, artillery seems to be a little on the more powerful side for the battle value that you put into it, if you ask me.
Yeah,
but, it is way skewed.
It definitely also depends on what you're playing. If you're playing in a campaign, it's different, right? If you're playing in a tournament or in a one-off, yeah, then all of a sudden some of that campaign tech starts to become troublesome, which is why Total Warfare exists in the first place, was to remove that stuff from people's chances of bringing them into an event. Which is awesome, because if you read the older books, like I think the Battletech Manual, I think was the name of the book, what I used to call it the Bible, but it allowed artillery, arrow 4s, long toms, thumpers, all that kind of stuff. And if you brought them just into a regular game, it just messed everything up. But on campaign, when you're like, oh yeah, my artillery's 10 map boards back, you've got 4 or 5 turns before it gets here. It's like, oh, okay, well, that's not too game changing. And it was terrible odds to hit too, if I remember.
Well, you could designate 5 hexes or whatever, and it auto hits too. Yeah. So you're like, okay, I'm going to pick these maps, and that's the heavy woods you're going to be in, and that's the other heavy woods you're going to be in, and this is a hill you got to, stand on to get line of sight. Well, there's 3 of my 5 points. Where are we going to put the other 2?
And then it's timing. You have to work out the timing. That was one of the things, and that's actually one of the things I really liked about Megamek, is the fact that you can have all of that tech and all of those extra rules, especially with the new versions of Megamek. You can put whatever optional rules you want in, or whatever tech, and you can actually play it out. Stuff you wouldn't want to figure out the rules of. Like if you're doing on a map at your game store or at home, you're like, oh, how does artillery work? I don't really get these numbers. And if you use Megamek, it does all that for you.
Yeah, I'm learning how to fly aerospace and widgets using Megamek. Like, okay, well, I can't do that, so Megamek won't let me play incorrectly. At least from what I've seen, there are a few edge cases where it doesn't quite function realistically or how it's supposed to. Like with hardened armor, if there's any fractions of damage left over, it, like a Gauss rifle, only does 7, not 7.5. So it cuts off that extra half.
Well, that actually used to be the way the rule was. It was either round up or you ignored it.
Not with hardened armor. You do half pips of damage, basically.
So you would round up.
Yeah.
Historically.
Yeah, the older rules, it was you rounded up.
Yeah, but
now you can do halves.
Yeah, not with hardened armor. It's an actual half point of damage.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Oh yeah,
Right.
it used to be because now I think you can even do it with the sheets. I think that you can even print off hardened armor sheets where it actually has a dot or something in it that you can mark off differently.
They show up as a diamond, I think. So
Yeah,
you
that's
can do
what it
like half the diamond or something.
Yeah. Which
or
is
put an
cool.
X or something. Yeah, I guess.
Then again, we're playing on a Megamek version 48. I had no idea how late that is, and I know that it doesn't have all the ill clan and retcon guide stuff, so there's a good chance that it's already been fixed. We're just playing on, 2004 version.
Yeah, we're waiting on the
I think
next
they're at
stable
49
version.
is the next stable that's going to come out.
I think he said even are the only, if I remember reading on the Megamek Discord, evens are the only official stable versions. There is a 49 out right now, but it's not officially stable. So MRC is delaying until 50 comes out because that's
Even though
the next one.
they said
That
it
makes
was
life way
probably-
easier to keep track of.
Explains like when I downloaded 49, it didn't work.
Oh, is that what your issue was? Is you were downloading 49?
Well, originally, yeah, and then I went and looked. I'm like, oh, here's the stable version, 48, cool. And then I downloaded and everything worked fine.
Yeah, because we've been pushing to try and get a bunch of the Calgary people in too. Because, I mean, yeah, okay, so Americans are pretty comprehensive of travel times like we are, but the British and whatnot were like, okay, so I'm gonna drive at like 90 miles an hour for an hour, and I'm not gonna get to a different city, but I also am not gonna get to the other side of the city that I live in because it's just that big and that spread out.
Yeah, that sounds like my morning commute through LA. Yeah.
Our density is sparse. We are spread out over
Yeah.
something like 700 square miles or something. I don't know. I don't even remember what the.
Damn.
So yeah,
Oh, I must have been thinking kilometers. It's 318.6 miles squared for the size of Calgary.
for 1.5 million.
Yeah, that's still damn big.
Yeah, it's a big area. And then to drive
Los Angeles is 501.
and to drive to Edmonton, which is the capital of Alberta, it's a 2.5, 3 hour drive at 55 miles an hour.
Why'd you
And
say
then-
quotation marks when you said 55?
Because I was trying to remember, what kilometers, doing the kilometer, because it's 110 kilometers an hour is our speed limit. So I was trying to do the math of, no, 60 miles, no, it's higher than 55 miles an hour.
Can you hear the smoke alarm in his background?
When I was taught in school, we were just switched from imperial to metric. So I learned imperial like as like a passing fad, and then we went directly into metric. So it's kind of like trying to do conversions in my head drives me bonkers.
You guys just need to embrace our metric system because base 10 is way, way easier.
It's never going to happen. Never going to happen.
I'll be in the cold, cold ground before I recognize millimeters.
I thought millimeters lived in the ground along with centipedes.
Well, we both count hexes, and that's the
Yeah,
important.
exactly.
And a
But
hex is 30 meters. I don't
Hey,
know how
I was
big
just going to
that is,
say,
but
they actually
90 feet.
Yeah, see,
Yeah,
even
it's
in the future,
roughly 90
eventually,
feet.
Yeah, eventually, you guys do come around. The Americans do come around because in BattleTech, everything's done in metric.
And military is all metric too. So any of the post-military measure everything in clicks and kilometers and all that. Again, because it's base 10, it is so much straightforward.
no, we're not disagreeing. It's definitely simple, but it just doesn't feel right.
So back to Megamek or MRC, because MRC is becoming a great big topic in Calgary, and I think Edmonton's starting to catch on.
Yeah, when I was in Vegas, I spoke to, I think his name was Steve.
Yep.
Yeah, I spoke with Steve, and he's like, "Oh, well, I'm already on MRC," and I'm like, "Then why aren't you playing, man? Come on, you're missing out." To be fair, though, I did join the MRC Discord like a year ago, and I didn't start playing because learning Megamek seemed so arcane at the time. It took me like 6 to 7 months before I finally got around to say, "Screw it, I'm going to sit down and have somebody hold my hand through this so I can figure out how to use this ancient program."
The thing about once you learn it, though, it's not that difficult. Like it's not. I found it very intuitive, but I've been playing with it, like Brett was saying, since 2003, 2004. So we've had quite a bit of experience with it. But yeah, it's archaic, but so is BattleTech. Really, like it's an old game. So concepts aren't that foreign. You just have to kind of learn the way it works and how to back up. That's the one thing I had a hard time with is you pick a selection that's outside of your movement range and it shows all these black numbers. I'm like, now how the hell do I get back to where I was in the first place?
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
Pro tip, I hit escape a lot to undo stuff.
Yeah, escape, or I found torso twisting when you fire at the wrong target or you're firing the wrong weapons. Torso twist away from it and then come back to it. It resets the fire.
Yeah, I used to play like every night religiously, and then had a kid or got busy with life and other things. And it took me, well, we signed up for MRC almost 5 months ago, and I only really started playing this month.
Well, especially for new players, Megamek is just such an awesome tool because I've only been playing since last July, and Megamek was a real good way for me to go, oh, that's what got me killed. All right, let me not do that. Oh, that's a bad move because I couldn't do that. Let me not do that. So anybody just learning how to do Classic is real intimidating from the outside. You got all these record sheets and dice and rules and books, but Megamek makes it easy and it makes you more comfortable being like, okay, I do know how to look at intervening woods, terrain, elevation, etc. Definitely is a good training wheels, which we were just talking about that with the range brackets in the other Discord. Training wheels are handy. I still use some of them.
Yeah, it's actually really good. Yeah, I actually agree. Megamek would be a great way for people who are a little bit unsure of the rules to figure out how they work.
Or people that think they're sure of the rules but are not.
Yes. Yep.
It is so handy to be able to look at the map and be like, okay, here's my short range, my medium, and my long range bracket, and that guy's got a +5 mod, and this guy's got a +3 mod, and that guy's got a +4 mod. So I'm probably going to be shooting the guy in the medium range bracket with the +3 instead of the other two. So I'm only going to start with trying to figure out if that's my good shots.
Yeah, I'd actually been GMing a Time of War campaign for my local group. I've been playing with the same group of guys since high school, so almost 20 years now. And I was getting a lot of rules wrong just because I didn't play Megamek. I was just reading straight out of A Time of War and Total Warfare, and I was getting some of the stuff mixed up. And from an RPG perspective, I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, it's not as bad as GURPS or any of the more complicated RPG systems, but it's a little arcane for people that are just used to D&D. So playing Megamek and learning what I'm doing wrong and like, oh, actually, you can't just fire all of your weapons just because they're in your front arc and you torso twisted. That's in your right arm. You can't shoot them on the left side with something in your right arm. Megamek visualizes that and makes it make sense.
Yeah, very good for that. The same thing, just doing the math for you. I find it really easy to pick my targets with that because you just go next target, next target, next target, next target, and it shows you the odds to hit each target. So you can go, oh, okay, I didn't have to figure out the math for every mech. It did it for me. And when you're playing Classic on the tabletop and you want to fire it, okay, I got 4 different options. You got to do the math for each one. Right? Well, okay, well, that one would actually be a 9. That one would be an 11. This one would be a 7. Okay, which one do I want to shoot at? With Megamek, you just click next target, and it just goes through the cycle for you, does the math. I've been playing long enough that I can usually do the math before with the tabletop stuff like automatically, but it's nice with Megamek not even have to worry about that. It just, who do I want to shoot? Okay, those are my numbers.
I know if I look at that mech, I'm going to need 7s. At this mech, I'm going to need 8s. And that mech, I'm going to need 9s. Oh, you want me to do the math? Okay, just a second here. Yeah, okay, that was 7s, and that one's 8s. I like how it really streamlines things. You're at the tabletop I love, and it's probably my go-to and always will be, but to do a 3 to 5 hour game on tabletop, you could streamline that down to an hour and a half or 3 hours on Megamek, depending on who your opponent is.
See, when I was trying to get good so I wasn't going to slow down games in person, because I have a real anxiety about that, going, oh, what if I get that wrong? I don't know how cover works. So I was trying to play lots of Megamek in order to speed up my ability to play in person. And
hang on, time out, Pirate. Lots is an understatement. You played 26 games in 1 month, okay? That is ridiculous. You played more Battletech in 1 month than most people do in a whole year, okay?
So you are the guys that Jonathan, Lord Carbon, was talking about.
Well, Pirate specifically.
Yeah,
but
because he was talking about somebody he was
Later.
talking about in one of our shows about somebody that was like, they were posting daily Megamek games, and it was just like, wow, that's a lot of Battletech.
Oh, absolutely. But, at the end of it, getting your rear whooped over and over and over again, well, then you start getting hardened armor on your butt, and then you can start kicking back. So
That's exactly how I learn. Even in other competitive games like StarCraft or Dota or stuff like that, you learn by losing, and you're going to lose a lot before you learn to start winning against the people that know what they're doing.
Correct.
You will
When I
always
first-
learn more in a game going against a better player, whether you win or lose. But chances are you're going to lose those. So just embrace it, expect it, and know that it's not a detriment. It's, hey, this is how I get better.
Yeah, I got tabled the first 3 months I learned how to play. A friend of mine taught me every game for 3 months. He tabled me because I just couldn't, certain things I just couldn't get the handle on, like jumping. I was jumping way more than I should have been. And then he kept shooting me in the back. I kept moving and he'd get a back shot. And he finally taught me, he goes, if you get shot in the back, it's your own fault. Like you've made the situation where that guy can get behind you. You need to figure out how to avoid that. I'm like, all right, cool. So that made a big difference. And like you were saying, it doesn't matter any game. You first learn by losing.
I remember the first game I played against Brad, Deviant ID, and I had this nice pristine blood asp, and I was like, I'm gonna turn my back to the edge of the map so he can't get behind me. This little guy, he has this fire javelin, just walk up and go push me off the map. So, and I'm like, man, this is my second game ever, and I just lost like half my forces to this little thing just pushing me.
Yeah.
But that's how you learn. So even though it says that, as of me speaking right now, it's got me listed as number 1 on the combat score, I definitely feel happy if I still nail one of Deviant's mechs in a match we play. So, there's definitely a lot of skilled players in there, and it's just really refreshing to play against, that. And when people bring new stuff in, like I had this nice little Jump Pulse 7 list that was just shredding everything because people like to play turret tech, and I'm like, how about I just jump behind you and, into those woods with pulse lasers? This was fun. And then Vapor brings Arrow 4 and homing ammo. Well, I'm just going to start DFAing everything because I have no chance of killing you now. But, you learn with all that new experience how to play against that kind of stuff.
Yep. Every bad experience is a learning moment.
And right now, there's a lot of new people joining up and trying to get interested in playing new games. There's been guys that have been brand new people that joined MRC maybe a week or two ago that have been getting a game in almost every day. And they're still fairly fresh new players that are still learning. So now and whenever you're listening to this in the future is the best time to join.
Yep.
Because there's always someone else who's new and learning along with you. There's enough people out there that you're not going to be at the bottom of the barrel, at least not for long. There's plenty of people that are willing to teach you and show you how to play and improve your skills. And that's mainly what our videos are about.
Speaking about the videos, what kind of stuff do you guys use to make those videos? Because this is totally out of my area of expertise. I have no clue. That is totally a Lee job. There's a Brett job and a Lee job, and this is definitely in the Lee area.
Well,
So
go ahead. Sorry, Lee.
Oh, no worries. He was calling my name, so I thought maybe he was talking to me. So when I started doing the podcasts, I was using like terrible tech, like just the easiest stuff. I would Google it, find whatever program would work and pull it down. You try to use it. It wasn't working out so well. So eventually, and I still don't have the best stuff. I know there's stuff that's rated higher. I use VideoPad video editor to edit the videos, and I record using debut video capture is what I use for this show. The audio that I do that when I edit is Audacity, and that one I found pretty good. That one works pretty good. VideoPad editor, I know Brett has heard me swear quite a few times or lose my absolute mind when it crashes and I panic thinking I've lost everything. But it doesn't actually lose it. It ends up saving it. Then there was the big problem of trying to find where my saved file was. That was a bit of a panic. But all in all, it's been a learning period. The software I was using originally was month by month pay, like a subscription, and it was getting to be too expensive. I was paying like $80 a month for subscription. I'm like, yeah, I can't keep doing this. This is killing me, especially since we're not making any money on this. It's all done off of our own pocket. Then I went to some free stuff or purchase one time only. So far, it's been working really good. What do you guys use?
So far for video capture, I've been using OBS. It captures video and actually audio too. I have Audacity. I haven't really utilized it all that well, but I've been able to just get everything using OBS. I'm not sure my settings in OBS are the best. I spent like a month watching videos on how to set this stuff up, and I'm somehow still messed it up. I'm pretty sure. But I record with basically everything with OBS, and then I edit it in DaVinci Resolve, the free version. I'm not paying a cent for any of this. Everything I'm using is free. Audacity, I think, is free as well, and I don't plan on ever making money off of this channel. This is just for fun and to help grow the community for MRC, and so people have somewhere to look at. Eventually, we're planning on doing some intro videos, more like what is MRC, how does Megamek work, how do I add units, baby steps. That way, if somebody wants to get involved and they don't know where to start, we can just point to a video and say, hey, this is where you start. This is where you find how to find a match. This is where you find how to build a list. This is, the basics.
That's
Free
great.
Free is definitely best. Like when I'm streaming, I just use Twitch Studio, no paid version of anything, just something free to post it. And as you said, we're not in this to make the big bucks. We just really want to show people all the stuff that we wish we learned, and also to help them be better players, because there's nothing worse than, even when you're playing in person, somebody will make a move and you're like, but why did they do that? What was going through their head, So being able to explain, this is what he's doing, this is what he's setting up, that's why we're doing it. So pro bono is the best tools we have for now.
Yeah, I didn't mind donating a little bit of money. It was the $80 a month that was killing me. I thought almost $1,000 a year. I'm like, yeah, I can't do that. That's almost our entire league fees. All right, not that I'm using any of the league money for any of this stuff, but when it's costing me almost the league fees out of my own pocket just to produce a podcast for league members, and then we've slowly expanded, pretty quickly expanded past our league membership. But yeah, I don't expect to make money on this. But this is not the intent. It was originally to create more content for our league members, and then we just started having fun with it. Like Rambletech is just an offshoot of Uncivil Discourse, where we wanted to talk about gaming stuff, whether it was Battletech or board games or whatever. We just wanted something else to put out there. We've done little shows with other people, like we had Killbox on there with John doing it, and then we've got the Battle Babes doing their show, which was, my wife says, well, I could do your interviews for you. I'm like, yeah, please do. It's just one more thing off my plate, and it was really well received. So she's like, well, maybe I'll do my own show. I'm like, cool, I'll host it on the podcast. We'll do that, and they've done really well.
Yeah,
I was pushing for that for quite some time. I'm like, let's get Laura or Heather to do our interviews, because it adds in female content. It adds in, hey, there's actually girls that game. It adds in one less thing that we have to do. Somebody else can even just time slot to get in the interview, and then you just slip it in. It's so much easier.
Yeah, I would like to add interviews to the end of our videos, or at the beginning, maybe before and after, if possible. It's hard to, at this point, the hardest part is getting footage and tracking people down to get games recorded, because I basically have to jump into Megamek and record my screen while they're as an observer while they're playing, and then come back, and then Pirate and I will do our voiceover, and I'll take screenshots after each turn to make it go quicker. That way we're not fast forwarding through the footage of the actual 3-hour long game that they just played, even though sometimes the castings take about 3 hours. But yeah, we'd like to expand what we're capable of with these videos, getting people out there in the community, getting them known, seeing what their thought processes are while they're playing, and figuring out, where did you think you went wrong, or where did you think you went right? That way maybe somebody else can benefit from that in the future, all the while being entertaining at the same time and informative.
And there's no other way of saying it than Classic is not a spectator sport. So it is definitely one that you have to be learning, or you have to be talking about, well, here's an interesting way they did this, rather than, no one's going to go goal other than when you see a headshot explode.
Yeah.
So it's definitely one you have to start explaining or talking about what's going on. And we try to make it so that a lot of people we know don't even watch video. So we try to make it so that it's something you can have while you're jogging in your car, at work, whatever. So you can hear us talking about it and it makes sense on the map without just going, oh, that thing there did this, and you kind of lose context really fast.
Yeah, if you're not into Battletech is not a spectator sport, which was why it's like, I've seen a couple of battle reports, like Tuck Davian over at Battlebound. He does battle reports, which I love. I love his stuff because he does the pre-interview. He does a whole schmear about the venue that they're playing at. He drives all over the country doing these videos. I'm like, oh, I would love to be able to do that. One, we don't have the budget, and two, I don't really know that many people outside of Calgary that play Battletech. other than like driving to BC.
Show
which
up at
is
the MRC
12
more,
hour
and you
drive.
will.
Well, yeah, but I'm not driving down the states either, unless you're going to help budget that.
California is not that bad.
No,
It's like
that's true.
24-hour drive, I think, to get there. Well, Vegas was 24 hours. I think Los Angeles is 22.
Yeah, which is amazing if you don't have kids.
It should be another 4
even
hours
with the
from
wife.
Vegas.
So yeah, no, but doing an entertaining show for people to watch Battletech is a challenging thing because you're not going to get a lot of people to just drop in to watch. They've got to know something about Battletech, or they're going to watch and go, "This is really slow and dry."
It's like listening to a baseball game on the radio. You
Yep.
either know what's going on and you're interested in what's going on, or you're not. And if you're not, it's one of the most boring things that you'll ever listen to. But
Yep.
luckily, we're all here in MRC or in your local Battletech League. So maybe you'll find it interesting. Maybe it'll get you through part of your day at work or your jog or your drive home. Hopefully we can bring a little joy and a little Battletech to your life.
Oh, and it does. Yeah, it does. I love listening to other content creators, Battletech stuff, mainly because it's another viewpoint on how the game is played. And you're right. If you're into baseball, listening to baseball is cool. If you're not, it's like watching paint dry. Battletech is very similar, except for the fact the community is a lot bigger than we think it is. Like,
It really is.
Look at the Kickstarter. Over 7,000 people in the first 5 hours or something like that put money in. If you think about that, that's just the people that went with the Kickstarter. But there's got to be double that at least of people who are interested in just the game in general, who either play it or played the video games or watch the cartoon. Oh, Adam Steiner, I hate that guy. But you know what I mean? Like all of that stuff, everybody or just into big mechas and stuff like that. So there is a massive community. I really like the fact that MRC is bringing together different states, different cities, different countries now with Canada. I know the Philippines. We have a couple of people.
Don't forget Funk in Australia.
Yeah, I wasn't
Funk's in
done yet.
Australia.
I was going there. I was going to get there eventually. But we also got the Philippines. Like there's a community in Philippines that I actually got in touch with through Facebook. A couple of their guys watch our show. It's really cool to be able to start touching on these different communities and go, hey, you guys play Battletech too? That's awesome. How far away are you? 22 hours or 32 hours drive? Maybe I'll fly down sometime. But yeah, it's just amazing. Like hearing about people's preferences for mechs, right? Or the eras. Like I'm old enough, and I know Brett is too, that we were around when the game kind of started catching traction. And I'm a big fan of 3025, not because of the tech was that interesting. I liked the artwork and I liked the novels. Some people are into the New Republic stuff or the Ill Clan. It's really cool to hear how everybody's viewpoints are.
Yeah, you know what? I've got a gripe about the community because I live in Southern California. I should be crawling with Battletech players. Every time I go to a FLGS, the shelves are either empty or ransacked of Battletech, but I don't see any damn players. I don't know where they're at. I know there's some in Pasadena. I know there's some in San Diego. I know there's some all around scattered, but there's no centralized, oh, hey, this is where everybody's meeting this week. Or, hey, we're all going to play at this store over in Brea. Or, we're all going to play at this store this week. Or anything like that. I know they're here. I know they're around me all over the place. I just can't see them or find them or have yet to interact with any of them in my area. And it's frustrating to say the least.
Have you joined the Facebook group Battletech Players by Zip Code?
I'm not on Facebook, unfortunately.
Oh, you're not? Okay. So this is for everybody watching then. There is a group on Facebook. It's called Battletech Players by Zip Code, and it's got you just sign up, you give them your area code if you're in Canada or zip code if you're in the States, and it will help you connect with people in your local area.
Now, that being said, the Battletech community has traditionally and probably always will be very secular. There are 4 guys that play in a basement on Friday night in this neighborhood, and there's another 3 guys that play in a garage on Saturdays over here, and there's 32 people within like 15 minutes of each other that don't know each other exist.
Yep.
That's how I got into it, was the local Facebook group. I just looked one day and saw, what's this, Battletech? Okay. Showed up one day and got into the hobby, but it took like 2 years for me to think about putting that into Facebook search to see Battletech Middle Tennessee. Oh, what's this?
Well, that's
Yeah.
how Lee and I met, was way back when in the day, late 90s. We went to the local game store, and there was a poster on the tack board for a tournament that was coming up.
Nice.
And you go and you show up. And then after that, it ended up going into League Season 1 or either League Season 1 had been started or it came shortly thereafter. And then, but it was like, okay, I walked into my local game store and I walk over to the section of the wall that says, looking for D&D players, looking for this game session, looking for a Battletech player. People just don't do that anymore. But now we have the internet, which is the biggest tack board of them all.
Yeah, but I'm about this close to walking into all these stores in my area with my MRC shirt and handing out damn MRC business cards so I can get those guys joined up.
Do it.
Once I get the business cards printed, I will.
Yeah. Well, we were doing this in Calgary too. There's another group in Calgary out of a gaming store called Imaginary Wars, and we finally met their organizers, or I did finally, at the Kickstarter party. They showed up at the Ogre's Den to check out what we were doing, and I finally got introduced to them. And they've got a pretty large group of guys too. I'm like, I've been waiting to meet up with you guys. I can't wait to actually go down to their store and meet up with them, because they're another community in Calgary. And the more we network, the more people that are going to play, the more, like, some of our guys might be local to them and maybe they'll want to go play with them on their off days. Or maybe some of their members are local to the den and want to join League. Networking has been the best part of the past 2.5 years, because I found how big the community is. And the secular part you were talking about, Brett, absolutely true, especially in the 90s and the early 2000s. But I'm really glad to see the groups are starting to grow bigger. It took forever to get Edmonton to even have a league, because they were so secular. If you didn't play clans, these guys weren't coming. If you didn't play with floating criticals, these guys weren't coming. It was really brutal to get those guys together at one table to play. And they've slowly started to build that up. They had, I think, 14 or 15 players, Brett?
Our first season was 18, and I think they were at 15. They were real close.
Yeah. And then our second season, we're at 22. And I think they're going to be, when they get their second season going, I think they're going to be expanding as well. So it's really cool that we're starting to get these groups. And they go to MRC, like, what, they had a 30-person jump from season 2 to season 3 for the MRC.
Oh, MRC is massive. There's a ton of people now. I mean, there's hundreds of people in the Discord, as far as I can tell.
Sweet.
So you talk about secularization. So I showed up for a BTCC event on my first day. Literally, it was a tournament. They were short of players, so I go buy a pack of mechs and jump in just to get shot. But it was a BTCC, and then somebody says, hey, there's this other community in Middle Tennessee. It's MRC. So then I go join that. And then we have another where it's just a bunch of people that just like to show up and throw mechs around. So when I go to my local game store, the same game store has 3 different communities that play there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I don't have a local game store, so MRC is my local game store, unfortunately.
You live in the city that has the most population out of any of us.
Yeah, I know. Imagine that. Now do you understand how frustrated I am when I'm like, you guys have 22 people. I know like 3 that actually play in any of these stores near me.
Go put some Madcap missile pods on your back spoiler of your car, and people start showing up.
I'm tempted. I'll put a big old Ghost Bear sticker on the back. People recognize Ghost Bear, surprisingly.
Well, actually,
custom license plates for the win.
Yep. Brad, actually, when you're talking about growth and all that, look at how many people at the Kickstarter that I didn't recognize. There was what, 30, 40 people there?
I think there was 8 to 12 people that I had never seen before for the Kickstarter, because I went 3 days. I think you went 2 or 3 days as well.
Yeah, 3. Yeah. And if you think about it, the guy who took second place, I never met Colin before. Right?
Yeah, there's somebody that scored second, and I'm like, who's this guy?
Yeah. And we've been playing in
who's this
Calgary
big dog
for
in my
30
little
years.
pond?
Yeah. And we've been playing Battletech for almost 30 years, and there's still dozens of people in Calgary. The community in Calgary is probably over a couple of hundred, maybe 300 or 400. And I know of maybe 40 of them.
Closeted players who are just like, well, I don't even know the miniatures exist, but I'm really into the franchise, really into the IP, the games and everything, the novel. But now it's out there, so I'm sure if it's at like Barnes and Nobles in the States, it's getting more mainstream. But there's a lot of people that just don't know it's more than a collectible at this point.
Yeah, for the longest time, I just thought it was like games because I had played the Battletech game way back when I was little on the Sega Genesis, and then I played Mech Assault, of course, and I was like, oh, cool, I love robots. These are fun games. I didn't realize that I had been walking by Battletech merchandise on the shelf at one of my local game stores for 10, 15 years until recently. I was like, oh, that's an Iron Wind Metals mini. Holy shit, it's been here the whole time, and I didn't even realize it.
Hey, they made toys from this video game I love? No, they made video games from those toys.
To get a little back into MRC, we've got a lot of tournaments coming up. Unfortunately, there's no tournament for April, but there is going to be Tukey at Heat for May that we've mentioned before. It's going to be kind of a beginner-friendly tournament, mechs only, 7.5k battle value, clan invasion era. So you get to see clan on Inner Sphere, and it's a good starting point for new players. Nothing too crazy, no hardened armor, no Arrow 4, nothing like that. So if you have any beginner players or people want to dip their toe into MRC, now is the best time.
We should talk to Laura about that, Brett.
Yeah, and all the rest of the members too, because
No, but Laura's been wanting to get into MRC and into Megamek, and I think that would be a really good introduction to her for Megamek.
yeah, it's really sweet. It's really easy to get ahead, and as they said, being the time frame of clan invasion, you have less things like, oh, that hyper assault gauze rifle, what does that do, or this. There is more stringent technology levels, so less to learn and less to be impacted by. But it's a phenomenal. I mean, it's my favorite timeline of the universe anyway. But it's really good. I'm looking at potentially either jumping into it, or one of the things that they're talking about is also having coaches available. So if you feel like you're super new, there are a couple of guys that are going to say, I will be a coach and I can help you build your mech list. I can review the game that you had and sit there and say, this might work better for next time.
So that's really more of Vapor. He actually just finished running the March Mechness tournament. That's more of his baby / idea. He would like to have us do something along the lines of Solaris Stables. That way, people like myself and Pirate and Vapor and Brad, some of the people who tend to find themselves on the top of the tournament lists, can step away from the tournament rankings, basically, let other people get a chance to get up there and win a tournament. Brad, this means you. And that way, we can have our veterans help newer players out. So people might be nervous, they don't know about list building, or they might be nervous with Megamek, period. Just in general, giving them a shoulder to lean on and a guiding hand when it comes to playing Megamek. That way, we have skin in the game still, and we'll have fun. We'll do like a 4v4, battle royale or something at the end of it to kick it off or to finish it off. But go ahead, Pirate.
I was about to say, so while we would do that anyway, help you with list building, go over and try to make it a real fun, competitive list for you to play in, we got Tukey at Heat in May, which is going to be Clan Invasion. Then we're going to have the end of the quarter for NFL in June, which is where we're going to try to push coaching and Solaris Stables in. So slightly different, but I mean, anybody who's like, hey, I'm trying to build a list for this event or even just this game, there's going to be tons of people giving various opinions on there to try to help you improve your game.
Oh yeah, you post a list in there and say any ideas or should I change anything, and you'll get like 5 responses minimum by the end of the day.
Well, we do like to talk about ourselves and why we're opinionated, so.
But
you ask
more
10 Battletech players what the best mech is, and you're going to get 8 different answers.
And why are they all, the Wolverine?
Because traditionally it's been the best.
But actually, Pirate, you mentioned NFL. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit? You might be a little better to explain it.
So there's a lot of things that we do in person, like a lot of the optional rules, like floating criticals, one arm prone firing, and reverse over elevation. Because I remember thinking that was just a normal thing. And Carbon was like, no, it's a mech. It should be able to go backwards up a hill. So, okay, that makes sense. But so NFL is the neurofeedback loop that Vapor helped put together, and it's kind of a variant on the standard MRC to make it more friendly for both beginners but also Megamek, because there's no backsies. So things like force withdrawal, if you're crippled and you keep attacking, well, what do? You can't go oops and pick up the mech and move it backwards like Megamek is done. Mm-hmm. So things like that. There's some modifications to the rules. Force withdrawal, and instead of just 15 turns, it also ends if there's under 20% BV to try to cut down on, hey, that awesome is crippled and it's on the other side of the map and I can't get to it kind of situations. So it's a way to make Megamek more friendly for playing and not strictly to the tabletop, but it is very faithful to the tabletop outside of some little quirks just because Megamek is quirky.
Yeah, so take for instance force withdrawal, like you mentioned, in Twilight Heat, which we played last November. Force withdrawal was engaged, but the rules as written, you can literally move 1 hex closer to your board edge, and you are sufficiently withdrawing your force. And force withdrawal, a lot of people don't agree with it. A lot of people love it. It's supposed to make the games either go faster or be more, realistic.
8 out of 8 organizers agree that it is done differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely in camp. I like force withdrawal, but I'm also in the camp. I'm a player and I'm going to cheese it just because I can. So it's like, well, I'm going to move 1 hex backwards. Yeah, it's not against the rules, but I'm going to move 1 hex backwards and 10 hexes to my left, in order to get my TMM. But if the point is to run off the board, yeah, I'm not doing it as the spirit of the rule.
Yeah, and if you want to cry, it's because of in lore reasons you wouldn't want your mech to get blown up. Well, what if you're a clanner? Then you would want to go out in glorious flaming plasma death. But NFL does away with that and says you are in force withdrawal. You can no longer hold objectives, but you go zombie around, go kill shit. You've already done your job, and we're not going to make you try and get off the board edge because we know you're not going to anyway. You're just going to move 1 hex back.
Well, but then there are times when you do want to, because the way MRC counts kills is essentially you get full points for killing a mech, BV-wise, but then you get half for a crippled mech. So if your mech's crippled, it doesn't have guns, it's not doing anything, it's an initiative sink, you're probably more inclined to get it to run off the back of the board. But if you think you have a chance to fire and shoot, or just be annoying in general, you're going to slow walk it. But there's been several times where I've gone, you know what, I don't want to give that guy the points. I'm going to hightail it out of here. But at the same time, usually you're thinking, well, maybe I can get a couple pop shots here, and he just jumped behind me and killed me. Well, I just lost a lot of points there because I was trying to shoot an extra LRM5 every turn.
Yeah, I found a lot of similarities between the NFL and our league. I'm like, these are really close in the sense. We do force withdrawal for our playoffs, but only in the sense as you can't have ties. So your mech kills are what matter the most. But if you're even up on mech kills, then you start looking at who's crippled. And if then you're looking at the cripples are equal, then you start counting dots of damage, which is a pain in the butt. But
which is what determined our B-side champion this year. We had to count dots. We had to figure how much damage each one had done to each other to figure out who won that one.
That means it was a damn close game.
It was great. Both our A-side and B-side champions.
2 kill, 4 mech lance, 2 kills, and they both had a cripple, and it was like literally counting the dots of damage to figure out who had done more damage.
Then you find out one of them used a light pencil and kind of smudged it.
Yeah, that's why our league has 60 some pages of rules, because one guy wanted to come join and he wanted to have laminated sheets because he liked using dry erase markers. I'm like, yeah, you can't do that. He goes, why? I go ahead and write down your 10 points of damage, and I'm going to take my thumb and just smear off 6 points of damage. Right? Whether you do it intentionally or not,
I'm going to reach across the table to grab my drink, and because it's cold and it's warm, it's going to drop a water off of it because the can is sweating, and now all of a sudden your whole left torso is well, did you have 5 points damage there? Because it looks like the whole thing is blacked out now.
Yeah, and it's not that anybody's cheating. It was just no. We have to It's amazing we don't use pen, but we figured pen. You lots of people put damage on the left arm instead of the right arm, or on the right.
I hit you in the left torso.
arm.
No, wait, that's a 6 location, not an 8. That's actually right torso. My bad.
Yeah, so we went with pencil just so you can fix little mistakes like that. But we said no, you can't use dry erase markers. You can't have laminated sheets, and a couple of other things. We had to simply go, no, sorry, it's a tournament. It's a semi-competitive. The rules have to be very clear. We said no custom dice. The dice have to be easily read, right? Stuff like that, just to simplify it. I don't know if you guys have seen those movement modifier dice with all the extra bits of information on it that are red, blue, or red, green, and white and stuff like that.
Yeah, I actually won a set in Vegas for
Yeah.
finishing third.
And they're awesome, but we don't use them in League because they're too hard to read. Like, yeah, you understand exactly what it means, but the person across the table is like, what does all those numbers mean?
Too much complicated information in a little die.
Actually, this is an erasable pen. I stopped using dry erase for those exact reasons. This I actually use at work to draw maps for utilities. I love these pens.
Cool.
It's erasable. It's erased by friction, but it's not going to come off if you just wipe it or get it wet or anything like that. You have to actually put a little bit of force behind it, and it comes with a little eraser tip right here. I swear by these things. I use them in my campaign with my players every Sunday, usually, except for this one when we're recording, because
So you know you just committed to putting in the comment section a link to those pens.
I will
So we
post
can
the
try and
Amazon
find them.
link.
That's
I
awesome.
will post a link in Amazon later. That way
Cool,
you guys
thank
can
you.
find them. I love these things.
I do appreciate that you make the rules specific though, like no custom dice, because I was just at a new game store this past weekend where they just sell loose dice, and I picked up this little guy, which looks innocuous enough. It rolls 6s almost every time. It was in the loose pile, so it's no different than any other dice, but like I'm rolling it here, 6, 6, and 6.
We actually we're supplying dice next season.
That's smart.
Well, it's not that anybody's done anything wrong. Is we're trying to avoid any potential chance of a guy going, hey, that guy's rolled an awfully lot of 12s, like over the past 4 games. And everyone's kind of like, and the guy's not cheating. It's just his dice are lucky, right? For those 4 games. And all of a sudden now everything he does from that point on is colored with is he cheating or isn't he cheating, right? If we supply the dice, show, okay, he got lucky. Right,
Yeah.
like that just happens to be what his dice are. So we've been looking at that, and it's not an accusation on anybody's play or anything like that. It's we are just trying to create the most balanced, level playing field where everybody can play, feel comfortable, know that they're playing with friends and or new friends potentially, and you might win something at the end.
Yeah, my previous competitive outlet for playing games was HeroClix, and I played that briefly. Unfortunately, I missed the Battletech era of that. But one of my buddies I was working with was really into superheroes, and so I played that with him for a little while. But their tournaments, they're sponsored by something called Realms Open Championships, and they would supply dice for their event, and you have to use those dice at the event. No ifs, ands, or buts. You can use other dice for markers or whatever, but anytime you make an official roll, you roll those dice. Period. End of discussion.
I've always called it looking past the numbers. You, after a certain point of playing, you've played so long that you know what your opponent's going to do because there's only a certain number of options they have with their movement points. You know what you need to do, and you know the maps well enough to know, okay, from the middle of this map to the middle of this map is 22 hexes. So you even use the map folds to figure that stuff out, right? It's just little tricks and stuff like that, like using the hex lines to figure out line of sight.
Trying to do the hex numbers in your head of going, well, I'm at 15, he's at 21, and he's over 4. Trying to triangulate that does help, but it's still very slow for us newbies.
Yeah, it's just practice, and that's all it takes. And that's where League has the learning curve, where some players are like, yeah, "This is why am I getting my butt kicked?" Because some people have learned to see past the numbers, and it just flows. But everybody gets to there eventually. If you play long enough, eventually you get there.
Oh yeah, but I'm going on maybe 9 months experience, and a lot of the people I'm playing with are like, yeah, back in the early 90s.
Yeah, 9 months.
Yeah, but you're going on 9 months and what, 150 games?
Yeah, you're going to learn faster than most people.
I want to get good. I want to make sure that I can, give y'all a challenge running at those games. And it's one of those where the only way to do it is just to get experience. And the best way to get experience is just keep throwing dice.
Yeah, I'm actually finding it difficult to get more games in because I'm like, oh, man, I'd like to get a game in, but I really should finish editing, or I really should record this game, or adulting, of course, wife, kid, work, all that. But, even on my free time, I'm like, do I really want to get another Megamek game in, or do I want to read this book that I've been meaning to read, or edit or something? It's like, it gets to the point where it's like Megamek or the rest of your life that you have going on.
Sleep.
Yeah, sleep. Oh, I've made that decision plenty of times, believe me.
You get to that burnout curve, so that's why, like, November, December, Jan, I was getting as much in as I could. February, I was like, I'm going to kind of slow off for a bit. I'm only going to do maybe 2 or 3 games a week. But, now I try to get at least 1 game in a week just because we have so many new people in. But yeah, I'm not going after. I was trying to get 1 game a day back in Jan, but now I'm going after just 1 a week now, just to balance out things because I don't want to burn out either.
Yeah, it's a hobby thing too, right? Because unlike 40K, where I guess if you're buying from Ironwind Metals, you have to buy the model, you got to assemble the model, then you got to prime the model, then you got to paint the model, and then you got to put it on the table. And I mean, here, the nice thing about the Catalyst plastics is they come all pre-assembled, so it's way less time saving there. And there's people that are like, Giant Tin Man absolutely detests assembly, loves painting. So he's like, I have a bunch of stuff that's still sitting in boxes. Our buddy Jeff, he's got a whole Custodes army that's in box because he can't be bothered to put it together. In Megamek, none of that is even a factor. So you don't have to worry about, I hate painting, I hate assembly, I just like playing. All you got to do is play.
Yeah, and the nice thing about Megamek, you can just click. There's just a couple of drop-down boxes and you have any paint scheme you like.
Plus any miniature, right? It's not like I can't find a Hellhound because it's been sold out and it's only available and it's nobody. I don't want to put a $300 order from Ironwind Metals in to get one. Oh, I just click and load the unit. Now I own a Hellhound.
That's the best part about Megamek, though. Like, some of the most fun games I've had on there is just me going to the master unit list and going, okay, what's this faction have? I've never heard of a Patriot or a Sun Cobra or a Sphinx or
Sirocco.
All of those. Yeah, Sirocco. Like, it's got to jump 6. I'm going to jump.
Yeah. All in all, the hobby has just grown to different things, like doing podcasts, playing in MRC, doing Megamek, which I think is amazing. I want to get into the tabletop simulator because I think visually that would be a lot of fun, especially for campaigns.
Yeah, I have tabletop simulator. I downloaded it because I was considering doing like a narrative campaign or basically GMing a time of war via the internet with it. But I've never got around to learning how to use it. I downloaded it. Somebody showed me how to log into it, and that was about it. So it's
everything
on the
I've
list.
seen. Yeah. Everything I've seen with Tabletop Simulator is 3 hours of prep work for like 45 minutes of enjoyment. I'm like, it's cool. The concept of it is awesome, but the amount of prep work that you got to put into it, I'm like, I got to adult. I got other things.
It's really no different than DMing any other game, though. You know how many hours are put in? I'm quite sure you have. You've GM'd D&D or other games. Really, if you spend real time setting up your games, it does take that long.
Yeah, so, very true.
It's once again, it's like talking about the people with Alpha Strike who are like, oh yeah, well, Battletech takes too long. 4.5 hours is too long for a game. I want to play an hour and a half. Well, okay, cool. Maybe Battletech isn't the game for you. And then they come with Alpha Strike. I'm like, look, you have Battletech. Go for it. Enjoy it. I like the 4.5 hour grind, and I play 2nd edition D&D, so I like looking at things like trying to figure out Thaco and all that kind of stuff. So long drawn out games are more taste, right? Like what you like to play.
If we're making an hour travel to get to a game, I would rather sit down and socialize with somebody for 4 or 5 hours, make their travel time and my travel time worth it, than to be like, well, you drove for 45 minutes, we played for 30, and now you get to drive home for 45 minutes. Yep. Have a good day.
I like the granularity of Classic, but I can see Alpha Strike having a place as more of a quicker, shorter set of rules that's easier to learn. And as far as the tournament scene is concerned, Alpha Strike is a little more geared to getting a tournament done in one day, doing 5 rounds. I played in the 350 in Vegas, and it was quick. It was a long day, but I mean, we got 5 rounds in within one day of play. compared to the BTCC, where it took 2 days to get 5 rounds in. And we only ended up doing 4 because we were short on players. We only had 12 people show up.
On
in
May
certain
7th,
situations, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Alpha Strike is definitely superior to Battletech when it comes to tournaments for tournament speed, quick setup and breakdown of a game. I absolutely agree with that. I find Alpha Strike way more enticing to play than Clicky Tech ever was.
yeah.
That's before my time.
Well, that was Hero Tech or Hero Clicks for the BattleTech one.
Yeah, I've seen them and I've bought some. I have like some sort of quad mech that I randomly found at Book Off, but it's the rules are arcane to me compared to playing regular Hero Clicks. It's just a completely different game.
So on that tournament note, though, on May 7th, we're going to be running a tournament here. It is going to be MRC compliant. It's going to be BTCC based for the formatting, but it's going to be 3 rounds, single day. And I looked at it and I'm like, okay, so the time frame, this is like a 9 or a 12-hour day that people have to accommodate for. Sucks to be them, but if you got to go 3 rounds and you got to have like 2 to 3 hours per round, it's the way the math works.
Yeah, every game's that way, though.
Yeah, or you go to 2 days.
Yeah, or go to 2 days.
And there's nothing wrong with that because Southern Assault was the first wargaming tournament I've been to, and that was last November in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And we got 7 games of Alpha Strike in a day and a half. And while that was intense, some of the things that helped were everybody there is a player. We're in this big gym, and it's like, hey, here's the packet. We're going to go over it really quick, and then everybody start throwing dice. Like there's no, there's no like shop, there's no convention, there's no long lunch break. It's just all like, we're here to play, and let's just start rolling.
Yeah, this weekend I was at a 40K tournament, and it was day 1 is 3 games, day 2 is 2 games, and it's 3 hours lunch, 3 hours, 15 minutes, 3 hours.
Yeah, that's exactly how the BTCC was set up for LVO, which is the way to go if you ask me. You got to spread it out.
I would have loved to have done like 2 games on day 1 and 1 game on day 2 and then the awards, because then you're not pushing everybody. But again, you're also trying to balance, is this a 1-day event or do people have to do 2? If they're coming in, do they have to get 2 hotel rooms or a hotel room for 1 night, or can they just show up and then, go home?
I would do 6 games in 2 days. I want to play as much Battletech as I possibly can. I'll stay up until midnight if I have to.
That was floor tech in the hotel room afterward.
Yeah, I was looking forward. I'm like, if I can convince Alex to play Battletech, that'll be me and Steven and Alex playing at LVO. That's 2 days, 6 games, and I only have to pack like 8 miniatures for the 2 of us. Instead of like my 35 miniatures for the 40K army. Takes up its own suitcase, essentially, because you put it in foam for safe transit.
If you go back again next year, you're going back in CBL swag.
Well, yep. I'll wear my blanket as a cape or something.
No, you'll have hats and stuff like that. Don't worry. I'll send you out there. We'll get it out.
Yeah, my wife made this shirt with Carbon's blessing, by the way. So
that's awesome.
Official MRC merchandise coming soon, hopefully. Carbon, get on it.
Hey, I just want stickers.
Yeah, me too. In the business card, damn it.
Funny enough, Carbon's bought something like 16 boxes of the beginner box because he loves his Vindicators. We're going to get him to send us some of those maps, and we're going to make an MRC arena for next season.
Yep.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Because it's just paper. It'll go in an envelope. Shipping shouldn't be that difficult.
And it's just, once again, community, networking and community, which is everything for Battletech, I think. Especially with the way Battletech is going, and it's becoming more and more community-based. We're turning it into community-based, the players. I think that's what we're going to keep seeing happening, and I don't think communication is going to stop. I think we're all just going to keep getting closer and closer to playing Megamek games. That's the best part. I can play against a guy over in Tennessee tonight. I don't have to go anywhere. He doesn't have to go anywhere. We just sit down and play.
Yeah, or in California. What are you guys doing after this? What are you guys doing after this?
Sleeping. I have to work in the morning.
Me too.
I'm thinking I'm going to try and dedicate Wednesday nights to be Megamek night, so that I can get in a game a week and I can be like, this is what I'm doing. My hobby is going for this here, and it's easy. And then I just look for people to be like, okay, so what are you doing next Wednesday? What are you doing next Wednesday?
Yep.
Yeah, that's basically what me and Pirate are doing. We're like, hey, look, recording Monday. Good. All right, cool. All right, sweet. We have a set day. We know what we're getting into on that day, and we got the rest of the week to play Megamek instead.
So we've been looking at, well, basically the whole reason we're having you guys here is originally we were thinking for our channel, we're like, it really would be nice to have some like battle reports or something like that, but it is such a dry game to watch. Well, maybe we could do the format that like the guys that do 40K in 40 minutes do, where you record the whole classic Battletech game for 5 hours and then you cut it down into little chunks and it's only 40 minutes. But then you still got to get a recording studio and you got to get cameras and angles, because to make a 40-minute segment on a 5-hour game, you really got to have those key shots of this is the interesting in the angle. This is where it looks good. This is that mech that's standing right beside the other one that's about to do a charge or a push or a whatever. And that seemed like it was a lot of work for just a little bit of return. Yeah. And then we're like, well, maybe we'll do Megamek, or maybe we'll do something that's more online. Hence the reason we're like, why don't we get you guys on? Because you guys are now shoutcasting Megamek matches, and we don't want to steal your thunder, but we want to do, similar things because it seems to be interesting.
Please steal our thunder.
Yeah, the more content, the better. The more stuff I have to listen to while I'm at work. I came up with the idea. I've been wanting to do something along these lines for a while for Battletech, because there's a lot of content creators out there. There's people going over lore. There's people going over how to play Megamek. There's people going over campaigns. No one's really going over the tournament scene. And I watch a lot of competitive games like StarCraft tournaments and Dota 2 and all these other, video game tournaments where there's live shoutcasters going over a game as it's happening, and calling out the interesting things that they see, or I hope this team is gonna end this game soon, because if not, their setup isn't designed to run or to win in the late game, stuff like that. So I'm basing this formula on like StarCraft 2 professional shoutcasting, and I'm hoping it's working. It seems to be working. We've been getting positive feedback for the most part. But I'd like to expand it, get player interviews and, get comments from the players, especially post-game summaries, how they think they did, all that other stuff that I mentioned before. And of course, I'd like to do more videos, something a little more entertaining, shorter, sweeter, funnier maybe, instead of just boring, dry, like we're talking about a golf match.
Yep.
Do we want to volunteer the Battle Babes to try and do some of those interviews for them?
Well, we'd have to ask them. But yeah, actually, we found interviews have been one of our best parts of our Uncivil Discourse and now Battle Babe stuff, because it showcases the players, not just the league, because the league is our players and the community, MRC is its players. Without them, we got nothing.
Exactly.
So showcasing them gets people like, oh, really? They're these people, the community or the organization cares enough about its community to put them front and center, and you get more people are interested in coming and playing, more people are interested in volunteering. We got a lot of people volunteering to help out, which is great.
And we tried to key in on those individuals that are like, this is somebody that's out for their first season, rather than, so you've been playing for 20 some odd years. What do you think? No, okay, so everybody's opinion is valid, but I want to hear about the guy that's, really excited and just getting into it, because I've only been playing for 9 months and this is pretty awesome. And I'm totally hyped about this, rather than, I played for 20 years. I took 10 years off and I'm back into it now, but these are the things that I did or didn't like, or that soured. Anything you're involved with can have sour points. So you want to be keying in on those people that are excited, trying to grow the hobby, and just get more people interacting with other people.
More people's key, because when I try to stream this to Twitch, there's only so much that me and my opponent can be saying to each other, just because 2.5 hours of banter while we're making moves, or hey, why'd you do that, is one thing. Found that feedback was, when we're streaming the Discord, we always make sure everyone knows front of time, hey, that's what we're doing. But having like 5 or 6 people commenting at the same time, or asking questions like, well, why didn't you do that? And then somebody else who's not even one of the players answering, that kind of community building is really what seems to be interesting more to the group, because it's all a learning experience, but it's also more involved than just 2 pros bashing each other's face in.
Yeah, Most definitely. And we do this on a volunteer basis. So I ask, I never do this without anybody's permission. Can I record your game? And so far it's been overwhelmingly 100%. Yeah, sure. Go ahead. I don't care. Or yeah, please do. Feel free and tell me how we did in this game. And I need more footage. That's basically what it comes down to. I don't want to keep, showing the same 5 people over and over again, because those are the only people who align with my recording schedule.
Yep.
The more games we have to go over, the more players that we have to go over, and the more people we can spotlight, the better it will be for the community. I don't want to play favorites, but I am right now, because those are the only people that are letting me record.
It's hard to spend 3 hours and take screenshots at every turn when somebody's playing 12 hours off your time slot.
Yeah, I mean, by all means, I can't done myself. If there was a way I could, I would. But if I jump in Discord or whatever, or jump in Megamek, and just most of the time I'm not watching the game as it's being recorded. I set up Megamek, I jump in as an observer, and I hit OK once the game starts, and I'm gone. I'm off, doing laundry or watching TV with the wife, or helping the kid with his homework or something. I'm not there watching the game. I do that after the fact, and I take screenshots myself after each turn, or after all the lines of fire have been drawn, and then we go over the combat log at the end of the turn. And we've been taking quite a bit of time to going through the combat log. I'm trying to cut it down a little bit to be descriptive, but at the same time be efficient. So unless there's red, expect to see us skip most of that combat log in the future.
Well, it's because that combat log is basically a choose your own adventure story, so we're excited to find out what happens too.
Yeah.
Especially if you weren't playing, you're just watching it after the fact. You're like, oh, that mech exploded. Oh, that mech's engine exploded. Ooh.
Or
Yeah,
that player had 7 explosions in the same game.
Yeah, when I was editing your guys' game, Brett, for this last one that I put out a couple of days ago, it was really interesting trying to figure out what to cut out and what not to cut out. And really what I did, the only stuff I actually cut out was any audio glitches or video glitches, or a minute and a half of dead silence.
Pirate and I were pretty quick at that game, though, too.
Yeah. But yeah, it was only an hour and a half. I think it was an hour and a half or whatever game. But the fact that the only time I could find anything that I wanted to cut out was either dead silence, because dead silence is death in podcasting. And there was early on, there was an audio glitch that I just took out because it desynced your voice from from what was being said. So that's why the MRC symbol is there, because people were going to want to watch your face. And they were like, nothing matches. So I was like, so I edited that and went through it. I'm like, okay. And then I'm looking at it, I'm like, I put almost an hour and a half show. Like, that's not too bad. Our Rambletechs usually go that long, and our Uncivil Discourse has been 45 minutes to an hour. But yeah, I also got to think about, we were talking about what's interesting and all that. Do people really want to dedicate a feature-length movie amount of time to watch us talk about Battletech?
I mean, I do, but
hard people that do,
weird.
But the thing is, when it came down to it, it was an hour and a half seemed to work. People seem to be liking the video. It's working pretty good. And like you were saying, you kind of do a Cole's Notes version of it by doing screenshots and all that. And that is a kind of a neat way of doing it as well. Kind of like the way they do it in some of the battle reports on other YouTube content creators. They show just the highlights. And then they narrate the highlights and then move on to the next round, and they show the dice rolls and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. But 5 hours of Battletech to try to shrink it down to 45 minutes would be brutal. I don't know how on earth we'd ever do that. And keep something that even looked like a flow of a game.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest hurdles is downsizing. And so far, I think I'm just going to lean into, hey, this is a long format review. Get over it. If you want to watch something quick and dirty, watch Alpha Strike, which maybe eventually we'll get into that. But this isn't for the faint of heart or the people that are in a hurry. You want to get through the full game, you got to get through the full granularity of a classic Battletech match. And we're going to take you there. It'll be a journey. We'll throw some little quips here and there. We'll question some moves, and we'll try to get a little descriptive with where their placement is. And I've even started doing the little Madden thing with drawing on the map and so, I wonder if he's going to go here next. So we're evolving slowly. I'd like to add some background music, which I was actually going to ask you about, Lee, because I asked Brett about it earlier. Like, where'd you get your music from?
YouTube Studios. There's
okay.
there's an
Never would have thought.
There's a free use audio, and there's thousands of sound effects, music, stuff like that. I actually have a couple of copyright marks on some of our videos, which have stopped now because I've stopped using the audio. I went and paid. This is part of that $80 a month that I was talking about earlier. I paid for subscription for copyright free, which is weird that you have to pay for it monthly for copyright free, but it's copyright free. But if you ever let that lapse, that subscription lapse, if you continue using the audio, now it's copywritten, which is fine as long as you're not monetized. Once you go monetized, then the person wants their cut. If you're not monetized, they don't care.
I'll take my 6% cut of 0.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Exactly. So, you don't ever want to insult an artist or a creator by pirating their work, but it was a learning curve as well, trying to figure out where the audio. And now I'm just going strictly from YouTube Studios because it's all free. It's part, as long as you're using it on YouTube, which is what I plan on anyway. And I don't even think they care if you use it on other formats either. Not positive about that. If anybody wants to correct me, that would be great in the comments. But yeah, that's what I did. And yeah, I added music to that because that dead silence, once again, it's like radio. When you're doing radio, dead silence is death. So at least music in the background helps fill in those momentary silences, which are fine when you're busy thinking. But when it comes to people listening and staying on the show, like you were saying, some people do it when they're running. So they're not actually watching the show, they're listening. So a little bit of musical in the background is always good.
Yeah, the hardest part I had with editing the Twitch video is I was watching the video at the same time I was editing. You know, as I'm editing, I'm watching it. And I'm like, well, shit, I can't cut this out because it shows Pirate making his actual decision on where he's going to move. It's silent for 30 seconds or whatever. But it's important for people that care about this and want to see what he's looking at when he's making his decision on where he's going to move. And I decided to leave almost all of that in there. I cut maybe like a minute or two out of that entire Twitch video that I have up on the YouTube channel.
And that's such a hard part when you're streaming, because I'm actively thinking, because I've trained professionally over webinars and such too, but it's so hard to know that I have to keep talking, or I have to at least keep calling out something, or get my opponent or whoever else I'm doing to talk. Otherwise, yeah, you're going to get those breaks. Then people are going to start to mentally wander. And then, yeah, like you said, it's death for it. While I don't necessarily care too much about the views, it's one of those where nobody wants to see somebody looking at a computer screen for, an hour and a half. So, when you're streaming, you're actively trying to add, but then that's the flip side. When we're trying to do these shoutcasts, when we're looking at what to cut, well, if you talk for 2 hours, it's hard to pull all of that away.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be brutal to try to edit audio or video when you're like, oh, this person was really it was important that we see this. Because like you said, this is when he made this decision, which won on the game or lost on the game or was a critical move in the game. Like, well, should I just leave it in for those 30 seconds so people see it? Yeah. I sometimes do over. I sometimes narrate over. I haven't done that. I had a couple of videos early on that I did narration over the video to add a little bit extra. But the problem is your audio recording versus me talking to my mic, completely different audio quality. So the last thing I wanted to do was have an audio where I was blaringly loud or I was crystal clear and you were a little bit quiet. Because then it's just like all of a sudden somebody's yelling in their ear about, yeah, and this is where Brett decided to fall down and blow himself up. We
had that learning curve in the beginning when we had season 1 with John. John was always coming in all of a sudden just loud or not loud, quiet, and then just loud.
I had that problem originally. Pirate was really low, and going from me to Pirate and back and forth, I was like, man, they're going to have to be moving their volume up and down. So in DaVinci, I can cut out sections and along with the video and the audio at the same time. And I can normalize the audio, which is basically I take this segment of audio and it automatically turns them up to where I'm at. So that way you shouldn't have to adjust the volume while you're listening or mid-listen. Which is real handy.
This is why I use Audacity, because if we use Craig, the recording bot that we're using right now for this video, I can put it through as separate audio streams. Each of us have our own audio stream. So when I put it on Audacity, it shows me, in this situation, it'll show me 4 different audios, and I can turn any individual up louder, quieter, We had some in your guys' Megamek game that we had some audio glitches where there'd just be this weird sound would happen, like somebody was hitting a air raid siren, and I was able to just take that section, either mute it or delete it.
Yeah, I can do that in OBS. I just haven't learned how to do it properly. The last time I did, or the first time I tried to do that, Pirate and I actually recorded a game previously before our first episode, and I got all of Pirate's audio. Somehow none of my audio came through. So it was basically just Pirate talking to himself for like an hour and a half. And I was very upset, to say the least, that we A, wasted a night of recording, and then B, that I effed up the settings so bad that I got zero of my own audio somehow.
Brett, what was that, first season or second season? We had all of your guys' audio and none of mine.
That was first season. That was one of our earliest videos. We actually had one where we had to do the whole thing over again from scratch because it was just so messed up.
Yeah. And yeah, it's so frustrating. And it's even worse is when I have to listen to an entire show, the raw material. So let's say it's an hour and a half, like this one's, we're going on an hour and 46 minutes at this point. I have to listen to the entire thing while I'm editing. Then I have to go through it again to match it up with the video. And if there's anything that has to be cut out, I'm 5 hours listening to the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that. I've gotten my recording process and my editing process after the first two times, one losing all the audio, and the second one having to go in and turn Pirate up and cut the sections up manually. I've got our audio pretty normalized while I'm recording, so I do one listen through, and as I'm listening through it, I'm cutting dead silence out when there's nothing going on. And I'm done. That's it. I'm not messing with it. I'm throwing the MRC banner up here and there. I'm maybe moving stuff if I really have to, but it's minimal effort for maximum possible viewing time. And I'm trying not to cut out any of our actual dialogue, only if we like, oh, hey, can we take a potty break real quick? You know, okay, yeah, I'll cut out the 5 minutes of us not being there. But,
Yep.
you know, other than that, it's real low maintenance to get these videos in. And the faster we can get the editing done, the more games we can get in, because the less time we're spending on editing.
Yeah. Well,
And
ours
there's
is getting
lots,
faster. Yeah, ours is getting significantly faster. It used to be 8 to 12 hours for a 1 hour, 45-minute show. Now I'm down to maybe 4 or 5 at most, like even an hour and a half show. Like it's getting to the point where the length of the show isn't the problem. It's just if there's critical errors in the video or critical errors in our audio, where that's where the work is. Like, how do I fix this? How do I patch it back together? Like at the very beginning, before we started recording for the show, Brett was like, oh yeah, Lee'll just cut this out and move it over there. That's a 15-minute pain in the ass trying to figure out exactly where to fit it in so that it actually makes sense, especially when we're doing video at the same time.
Yeah, but I have high expectations of you.
Yeah, I know you do.
Well,
I don't know why.
Because I know you can.
You may want to try learning DaVinci, because I think I would be able to cut out that segment and then just kind of drag it to where I want it and put it wherever. Take like maybe 5 minutes.
I can do that as well. What I'm saying is where does it fit perfectly in the show?
Well, that's more of an artistic choice at that point.
But it's time. It's still time.
And Jeff, our other commentator, has been slinging DaVinci at you for a while too.
Yeah, that's fine. I might get into it, but then I have to learn a whole new software, so we're back to the learning curve again.
And then all of a sudden, I've cut out my audio, or where did it save to, or it dropped.
Yeah. So, but whatever. It doesn't mean I'm not willing to change. It just takes a bit to learn it.
Well, it's a learning experience. Like, you know, when we were doing it, we didn't have our cameras on, so we're talking to each other like we're talking in Discord, because that's how we talk all the time to each other, and we sync up pretty well naturally. But just little things like, you know, if we can see each other, then Jesty can see me when I'm pausing, so he's not like, oh, wait, were you about to say something? At the same time, I don't, you know, just talk over him all the time either. So it's nice to be able to, as far as editing, reduce some of those false starts and, you know, cut things out when you never have false starts to begin with.
One of the worst things we found out at the beginning of the season is I wanted us to be on camera for Uncivil Discourse as well, which is scripted, and found out that none of us are actors, so we're constantly looking at the script, reading the script as we go. Well, that's not very entertaining for people to have us sit there watching me stare at the screen for the entire show.
That's called the news.
Well,
So
because
we-
I like to do Uncivil Discourse is kind of like our take on Sports Center for the league. So you're like, and these are the matches, and this is the person, and this is the arena they're fighting in, and then here's our predictions. But to do that and to have it flow and to make sure you're not missing anybody, you gotta script that. So it's gotta be ABC, 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 which comes out when we go through it. It's not so bad. But if you were to watch us reading it, oh, it'd be boring as crap.
Also, the fact that we can mess up when we're not on camera, and I can just cut it all out, right? Because I can do so much more audio magic with that because I'm not on camera. When we're on camera, like what we're doing right now, if we have a massive, well, we all decide we want to go to the bathroom. That's a section of video that just disappears, and you have this kind of hand wavium scene change. If you do too many of them, it starts looking bad. Like the video starts becoming unwatchable.
Doesn't flow right.
Yeah, speaking of doesn't flow right, the very first video that I put out, I didn't share it everywhere because after I spent like 4 hours editing it, because it was a pain in the ass because it's my first time learning, I realized that as I was deleting sections of video, it was automatically deleting sections of audio along with it. After I'd already deleted the audio I wanted gone. So it was real choppy and real bad on the audio. It would be like mid-word and it would cut to someone else to start talking immediately. So I feel you there. It can be real tedious and time consuming. So
mine was syncing voice to mouth action. I had to learn. So when I first started, I would be cutting out audio and slapping everything together in my audio thing, and then I would take the video and then try to match it up. Well, of course, now the lips are moving when nobody's talking, or there's talking going on when the lips are moving. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Like, how hard is it to figure this out? People do it all the time. Then I realized, don't actually delete anything. Just mute the section until I go to match it up with the video, and then cut out the section that is silent. And then the lips are always in sync. It took me 1.5 years to figure that out.
that's actually genius. I've been cutting, so that's good to know.
I just muted it and
on
then
camera.
Yeah, well, yeah. If you're doing it on where you want everybody's lips to match up, that's the only way I could figure out how to do it without having to try to get that exact moment where the person's mouth opens, and still don't get it perfect. At least this way now, everybody's lips will match up.
Yeah, that's way too tedious. There's no way. It's going to take you way too long to do that. I'm of the close enough camp where, hey, we might be off by like a half a second on our lip sync, but oh well, who cares? We're not a visual. I mean, you're not looking at us. Let's be real.
No,
We're not our faces aren't the real draw here.
Yeah, but yeah, once I figured out just to mute it and then cut out the silent sections, perfect. Worked out great. Not a problem after that.
Okay,
Yeah,
so like
so
any
like-
Rambletech that we have, we've been going for a while. That being said, we like to try and respect our guest times. We will move on. And is there anything left that you want to touch on, Pirate? Anything that we haven't covered?
Yeah, I was going to say, so on that exact point, one of the biggest challenges we're having now, I think, is these can be marathons to do. So eventually, the later the content gets, the more we're kind of, all right, let's just, cut it short, move it on, let's keep going. So we're struggling with the formatting of, well, how much do we spend on the front of the match and, talking about the setup and the, record sheets and how we go over everything versus we got a lot of content to get through and we're going to start running out of caffeine and sugar somewhere about the hour and a half mark. And oh my gosh, we still have another hour in front of us. So pacing on trying to do these shoutcasts is definitely a concern. We're doing great and I love it, but we're definitely, especially at the last one we just did, going, whew, sometimes we got a real comfy chair for this.
Yeah, those last 3 turns were, the mech moved somewhere. Don't worry about it. It's not important.
It's probably going to die this round anyway, so we won't have to talk about it much longer.
Actually, I think we said something almost exactly along those lines.
Yep.
Anything you want to bring up, Jesty, that we haven't covered or whatnot?
I think we pretty much got through everything. Just, shouting out to the MRC. Everybody should join. There's really no excuse not to.
Doesn't hurt you. Doesn't cost you anything. You don't lose if you don't do anything. You only gain by participating.
And some of us
Until you
really
get really
enjoy.
high up there.
Yeah, well, yeah, like Pirate. I think he's the only one that actually is at a 0 modifier for matches because he's played so damn many. But there's really no reason not to. If you like free internet points for winning and seeing that number go up and your rank go up, and you like being competitive, or you don't like being competitive and you just want to have fun and roll some dice and have a good time, join the MRC. There's plenty of people that are willing to play fun games that aren't submitted for ranking.
And even if you don't, there's some of us that secretly have a big combat score because we're trying to get our faction rank up for the narrative purposes of, getting higher ranks for territory warfare.
Oh, and what faction are you, Pirate?
Well, obviously. Whatever the most evil one I can find is. I was like, everybody needs a bad guy. I'll go Pirate.
Yeah, I would actually be repping Scorpion Empire, but they're not a valid choice, so I get pigeonholed into homeworld clans, unfortunately. But I'll take what I can get.
Yeah, and I fly the Jade Falcon banner, so I get lots of flack for that.
So ashamed.
As you deserve.
Oh, wait, who owns half the territory in Alberta right now?
Only because you heavy loaded the game.
I had nothing to do with that.
That's the right now until we come for you.
That's right.
My
It'll open up
bachal for
globally.
loading the teams was better than yours.
Fed sons are just going to push you all out. Don't worry about it.
But see,
Except
this is
you've
the
been
kind of
fighting
fun
for
we're
us.
talking about.
What was that?
Oh,
You've
so
been
this-
fighting for us.
Yeah. Except when I'm fighting for you, I know. I didn't think about it when I said I'd defend.
Yeah, but this is the kind of fun we're talking about. I mean, you don't have to be full competitive or what do they like to call it? Win at all costs. Yeah, that's not always the case. There's a time and place for everything. And usually that time and place is during a tournament when you pull out all the stops and you're going for broke and you're playing to win. But when you're just playing a regular ranked game or a fun game, you won't see Arrow 4 or Jump Pulse or 0-1 pilots or anything like that. It's mainly to have fun and have a good time and get more experience and more games and watch that imaginary number on your ranking or your faction ranking go up slowly over time.
Best game I had so far was a territory warfare, and it was against Deviant, and we basically said, let's just bring a bunch of melee mechs. So he brings out like 6 swords, and I've got chargers I can head cap with punches. There's just a lot of fun crap like that.
Oh yeah, my funnest game was playing against Brad actually as well, using a wedge to spot for C3, doing circles around him with the wedge in the middle of the map. He's like, I can't hit this damn thing.
That's the problem. We could go on for hours.
Yeah, and we have so far.
Exactly.
All right, well, I've been a little bit more distracted by the dogs tonight than normal, but sorry about that.
You got a puppy.
Yeah, she's awesome. But a little bit more needy. That being said, for myself, just the last kind of thoughts is, I love the MRC because there's always people around. Even if you're only got 20 minutes or something, I pop onto the server and there's a couple of people playing. You jump into the game and you're like, oh, so how's this going? Oh, cool. Sit, watch, relax, talk, and then get out and go and do whatever else you need to do. It's nice to have a part of a community where you can just drop in, jump in a game, wait a turn or two, get a feel for it, and just see how people are chatting and having a good time with each other.
Yeah, and it's been great. Well, the community's been growing steadily. We just came from 2 people playing a game when we came over here to watch. We stopped watching them to come over here and do this podcast. So there's always something going on usually.
All right, Lee, any final thoughts to wrap it up?
Always great to talk to other content creators. Give me ideas, right? I need that kind of stuff to keep our channel growing and learning and all that kind of stuff. Awesome to also talk to you guys about MRC. I was a little bit hesitant at first to get into it because I didn't know how much of a commitment it was compared to everything I was doing for League already. Super happy to see how easy it is to play and how much fun it is to just a little bit extra reason to sit down and throw dice. I always love that. The main thing I'm super excited about tonight is the fact that our promo for our new giveaway is up. And hopefully the 2 of you guys will get in there and maybe win. That'd be awesome. It'd be great to give you guys a lance.
Yeah,
Second
definitely sign
screen.
up.
All right, and Pirate touched on it earlier. It is all about not stealing content or fighting against other people for their content. It's growing the community, and one of the main community aspects of MRC is lean on each other. If somebody's been doing something or you're looking to do something, doesn't necessarily mean that you're not stealing their work. You're like, hey, you've done this. Why do I have to do it again? I really like that aspect of let me help you be successful, as opposed to no, this is my thing. You can't have it.
Yeah, and expect a lot more tournaments in the future. There's
Sweet.
some other ones coming in the pipeline that haven't even been mentioned yet. So look forward to more fun times ahead.
All right. On that note, I think we're going to wrap it up. Thank you very much to all our fans and everybody who's tuned in. If you haven't checked out Jesty MRC over on YouTube, hit them up and subscribe to both them and us. And have a wonderful night, everybody.
Don't forget about
Right.
Pirate on Twitch.
Yeah, absolutely. Get on that
Thanks for having us.
for
Yeah,
sure.
thank you.
Anytime, guys. Heidi ho, fellow gamers. Once again, we have a wonderfully painted lance to give away to one of our lucky subscribers. Painted in the Draconis Combine Ryukin Roku scheme, it includes a Battlemaster, a Catapult, a Dragon, and a Shadowhawk. A very special thanks to Army Painter Studios. This community member painted a lance for us to give away as a random prize to our subscribers. Any new or current subscriber to the channel can enter the draw. All you have to do is like our video and comment below, and we will do the draw when we hit 250 subscribers. Each video you like and comment on will get you an entry into this draw. Tell your friends, share with your enemies, and help us reach our 250 subscriber goal. Thank you all very much, and we look forward to that next major milestone that we get to share with you. Have a great day.